The Jon Anik and Kenny Florian Podcast. Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
Headshot, bang. Oh, done.
Sunday edition of the Anik and Florian Podcast. Pay-per-view week. It is Sunday, November 6th, 2022, episode 372 of the Anik and Florian Podcast. Figured we'd fire this one out early for you because I'm getting anxious just prepping for UFC 281. I sat down and for one of a handful of times in 11 years doing this job, maybe 5 times, I started from the back of the card and moved up, right? So I started my prep with Adesanya and Pereira, and it's literally making me nervous filling out my fighter cards here as we sit, a week out.
It's a brilliant card, man. So many great fights. Just really curious about that main event. It's something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. We're finally getting that fight. You're getting both fighters in their prime, which is always going to be a dandy.
So Ray Longo coming up here in about 10 minutes, and chances are UFC lightweight Matt the Steamroller Frevola will crash the Ray Longo minute. He is fighting Otman Azaitar at UFC 281 here 6 days from now. We're going to get into Amanda Lemos, who had a huge weekend with the knockout of Marina Rodriguez in the UFC main event. But I do want to start just for a minute, even if you indulge me for 2 minutes here, on Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira, because this is the biggest news in MMA. They will fight for the UFC's undisputed middleweight championship at the Mecca this weekend. I watched both kickboxing matches between these two back this morning, and I said this to you in our little pre-show meeting, if you want to call it that. I don't know that there's much to glean from it, if I'm being honest. I mean, especially on the Adesanya side, he looks like a totally different guy. I feel like there was a little bit more reckless abandon and a fearlessness that you're not going to see with 4-ounce gloves. I don't even know how worthwhile this film and this footage is when it comes to handicapping these two fighters right now in their primes and in a mixed martial arts setting here for the UFC title.
Yeah, John, I think you can pretty much throw that out. I don't think it's a great indicator of either of their skills right now. I really don't. I don't think it's a great indicator of how the fight is going to go necessarily. You have to look at their mixed martial arts fights and see where they're at right now, because I think both men are completely different. You're talking about a completely different sport. So, yeah, I agree.
All right, plenty more on that. Obviously, later we'll see on which side Kenny falls when it comes to the prediction, Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Right now, the betting line, about minus 170, Adesanya the favorite. Pereira comes back at plus 145. Look at this height discrepancy. Should I come down a little bit? A little too much headroom, Ken Flo. All right, so we get into headlines and we get into Amanda Lemos over Marina Rodriguez by TKO at the 54-second mark of round 3. And this is what Waleed Ismail has been saying really since Amanda Lemos was in the UFC. I know there have been some ups and downs, but undeniable finisher, fight-ending power. And a lot of people felt like if she in this matchup could find the range early and get respect for her power, she could be the first to finish Marina Rodriguez in a mixed martial arts setting. That is her reality now. And all of a sudden it's Lemos and not Rodriguez, who's in strawweight contention. And Rodriguez, of course, could have gotten a championship opportunity. Now it'll be a while.
Crazy. She's certainly one of the hardest hitters. We knew that coming into this. And I talked about it on the podcast last week. I talked about it in our little chat of AF Pod Boys that we got going on. First 10 to 12 minutes, man, watch out for Lemos. She hits so hard. She's so explosive. And if she has her timing, she is a problem for anybody. She's just that dangerous. For me, I think the big thing for her moving forward is finding some emotional stability. Even heading into that fight, she looked like she was about to cry almost heading into that fight, but it didn't matter. She started to loosen up as that fight went on. Each round, she seemed a little bit more comfortable and more confident. And once she found that range, man, she was unbelievable. Rodriguez is so tough, and she's very good. She's very clean with her technique, but I think she wasn't quite prepared for the speed and explosiveness of Lemos.
And that right hand, man, I mean, that's like a brain bouncer, you know, you almost sort of, anybody who's had a concussion, you sort of, you know, the brain sort of hits the other side of your head and the room kind of comes back. Seems like there's a lot being made of the stoppage. Again, I was mixing a lot of things yesterday, childcare, college football and the like, but I thought Jason Herzog stepped in at the right time. I mean, I thought he saved Rodriguez further punishment. Are we aligned there or not necessarily?
I am. I think that she took a lot of punishment, you know, on that shot. I think that she really wasn't defending herself. Herzog, one of the best referees in the game. This is a more common stoppage that you'd see in something like boxing, right? But these were heavy shots that Herzog was closest to. And when you see a fighter that's not quite looking at the fighter in front of them and still trying to get it together and process of what was going on, it was only going to get worse for her. She was going to take huge shots. There was nothing telling me that Lemos wasn't going to continue pounding her with overhand rights and lefts. So to me, I thought it was the right stoppage. Save Marina for another day. In this game, all it takes is one mistake at the highest level. And that's what you saw there play out.
And Lemos made that mistake a couple of fights ago against Jessica Andrade. Right. Now she has 2 straight finishes, and all of a sudden she is smack dab in the middle of this 115-pound mix, even so much as to offer herself up as a backup coming up next weekend, or this weekend, I should say, for the title fight between Zhang Weili and Carla Esparza. But Lemos is interesting, right? And hopefully she can, speak English a little bit and start to sort of broaden her range and her reach, I guess is a better way to put it. But I think we all have been at times, at least us commentators, excited about Amanda Lemos. So not the least bit surprised to see her produce in this moment. And, you know, I like Marcio Malco and Marina Rodriguez. I feel bad for that camp because they did have this 35-year-old fighter on the cusp of a title shot more times than one. And here's your old 2-year championship setback just to jab you in the ribs, you know? I mean, right? This is a tough thing, right? I mean, thrill versus agony. Lemos is in the mix, and for Rodriguez, you know, she could build herself back, but, it's going to be a tough climb given the depth at 115 pounds is all.
I agree. I think she will be able to climb back. It is tough. There is a lot of depth in that division, and you never know when that shot is going to come. She isn't one of those huge names that is guaranteed a spot based on name power. She's going to have to earn it, no question about it. But for Lemos, she's extremely exciting, and she's the kind of person that is also, just based on the fact that she always delivers exciting fights, win or lose, is going to get the jump over a lot of other people because of that, marketing wise. But again, she has a very potent offense. Her counter fighting is on point when she's really timing it right. And I think she's going to be a problem for a lot of people out there. You have to watch out for her stand up. There's very few women in the world that possess that kind of power. And, she's out there representing for the Karen haircuts out there. I love it. It's awesome. Yeah. I love it, man.
When you look ahead to a possible championship matchup between Amanda Lemos and Zhang Weili, and I'm not intending to put the proverbial cart before the horse, right? But when you think about that matchup, I mean, that's a very compelling matchup to say the least. But Carla Esparza figures to have something to say about that. So speaking of having something to say about something, I'm wearing my One More Round t-shirt today. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, it says Ken Flo on the back. I'm not going to turn around for you. A lot of you guys know this t-shirt. Do you remember which fight you wore this out to?
Let's see. Would that be Roger? No. Roger Huerta?
Was it Roger Huerta? Quite possibly.
I don't know.
I think it might have been one before that, but maybe not. Anyway, so I'm the president of Team Florian. Now, Ken Flo, circumstantially, when he got married, he needed a replacement groomsman, right? And Kurt Pellegrino got the call. Now, if there was a replacement groomsman in 2022, I feel pretty convicted in saying I would get the call over you, Kurt.
You would, absolutely.
Right? Sorry, Kurt. Sorry, right? It's neither here nor there, right? But which is to say that Ken Flo is one of my best friends, and twice, if not 3 or 4 times, right, through my buddy Keith, his brother, I knew that Kenny was essentially staring death in the face to make weight, right? Forget the 2 featherweight cuts, right, that were just really just probably ill-advised. But even the cut for Gray Maynard and all the pressure in that Boston fight week and everything else. Yeah, Cody's chiming in. He hopes that Ray Longo comes on right now in the middle of this conversation, right? But 4 fighters missed weight over the weekend. At least that's what Wikipedia is telling me. I thought it was 5, but maybe there was a fight that was scrapped. Right. But no, I don't know. 4 fighters, record-tying miss weight. That includes the high-profile Grant Dawson coming in 157.5 pounds, a full pound and a half over the limit. Now, I like Grant, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I haven't spoken to him. I didn't necessarily love some of the things I was hearing he was saying after the fight. But I have this theory that for pay-per-view cards, a lot of these fighters make weight and these 15, 16 fight cards stay together. But for these fight nights, for whatever reason, shit always goes sideways. In respect to our producers, Zach Candido, Michael LaPlante, and Mike Ricci, this is hard on our live production team, especially those 3 individuals. Obviously, it's hard on Marco Madsen and all the opponents of the fighters who missed weight here. But Kenny, my appetite to watch Grant Dawson versus Marco Madsen lessens significantly when Grant misses weight. And the result of that fight, even though he'll be match made forward as if it's a lightweight win, to me, there's an asterisk next to that win. And perhaps that's rooted in watching you do what you do and to hear guys like Paul Felder and others talk about, how difficult it is. But I don't know, man. I guess I'm sort of just coming down on the group here. But when you have 4 fighters miss weight on a tidy little 11 or 12 fight card, it's just not a good look at all.
It isn't. It's not a good look for you as a fighter, and for a bunch of reasons, right? Because you do lose the interest of the fans. The fans are like, well, I can't really rely on this. I don't have the same interest. And for the UFC themselves, and I've talked about this before, you now become an unreliable fighter, right? Now you're not someone that they can potentially count on to take a main event fight or a main card fight even. Certainly not a championship fight, right? So those are the kind of things that they're going to consider going forward. Is this the guy that we can count on that is going to make the weight? And it's annoying to the fighter that's fighting them. It's like, all right, I'm preparing for this dude that may or may not make weight. So it's a shitty situation.
Ray Longo never missed weight in his boxing career. Good Sunday morning to you, Raymond. Happy football Sunday, Ray.
Let's go, guys.
I love your T-shirt. We're feeling okay. I just was sort of bemoaning the fact that a lot of athletes missed weight last weekend. For a guy like Grant Dawson, whom I like, who has come up from featherweight, he's switched camps. He's 56-1 as a pro. But for me, I did not watch that fight in some part because Grant missed weight. It lessened my appetite as a fan to seek out that fight on ESPN+.
Yeah, I mean, look, I heard what Kenny was saying, and obviously he's 100% right. But there's just something that, look, there's always a margin of error, though, right? When that many people miss weight, is that possible, or is there something else going on? I don't know. I mean, I think there's got to be a number of people that if it goes over 7, then something could be wrong with the scale. I don't know. That could be just me. I mean, is it possible that 5 or 6, 7 people don't make weight in a fight? We've had other nights like that before where it's just an exorbitant amount of people that have missed weight. But I don't know. Look, the missing weight thing is never going to be, an easy subject. And I agree with Kenny 100%. You lose your reliability. You said you were going to do something and you have to hold to your word and do it.
Yeah, so Ray Longo giving you a little benefit of the doubt there potentially with the scale. What'd you think of the card? Did you see Amanda Lemos in the main event last night?
Yeah, that kid has bricks in her hand. There's no question, man. That's the hardest puncher in that division by far. And I tell you, Mizuki fought her, and she did knock Mizuki down. Mizuki went the distance with her, but Mizuki's pretty good, and she's tough. So I knew at that point, I think even Dean Thomas called me to ask me something about it. I go, that kid's got bricks in her hands. I mean, she hits hard, and you saw it last night. She hits you, she's going to hurt you. I mean, she's looking good, but I don't know. I did see the fight, and I thought it was awesome.
By the way, Cody chimed in the chat. He said, Sarah Longo guys don't miss weight. You remember the last time one of your guys missed weight? How's that for putting you on the spot on a Sunday morning? Had to have been an occasion here or there, right? That's good that you don't have anything.
No, I don't know. I mean, the closest I remember was Weidman against Damian Maia, where he lost that 30 pounds in a week. And
crazy.
It was insane. I was begging him not to make the weight. That's how bad it was. I literally said you took it on a week's notice. Nobody could hold you accountable. This isn't healthy. This is crazy. And I remember he went in, he had 3 pounds to go. He went in the sauna for 15 minutes, came out, not an ounce. And then somehow he just mustered up the strength. I mean, he just didn't want to not make weight, even to the point where it would kill him. And he made the weight. And I'll never forget, after the fight, it was like simultaneous, just looked at each other and go, never doing that again. Like, that was just like, that was bad. But, when you have conviction and, you're that strong-willed, you will find a way to make it. So people correct me. I don't remember anybody missing weight, to be honest with you.
Kenny, are you like browned out for that Jose Aldo weight cut? What was it for you? Do you think, as humbly as you can say it, is it mental toughness? Is it not wanting to let people down promotionally? Like, how were you able to power through it when seemingly we're hearing that they're like holding your brother back who's trying to get in there to save your life?
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know. In my mind, like there was no doubt that I had to make the weight. Like, it wasn't even, I don't even know if that was a possibility. Like, I understood that, like, hey, I can quit at any time. Right. I didn't have to do it, but in my mind, I'm like, no, I have to make the weight. Like, this is a world championship fighter, number one. But even for the last one against Diego Nunes, it's like, there's so much on the line. And there's so many people that are depending on me to do this. But it was more me, myself, being like, no, I need to prove to myself that I can do this. And I'm not going to quit in like the face of adversity,
Yeah, and again, I don't want to bring up the story, but the Diego Nunes, John, I'm telling you.
I've never heard this story.
He was in Weidman. He was in Weidman's category. He was, and I didn't really I didn't want to interfere. But his team did leave him. They left him for dead. I don't know who. It was me, him, and White.
They were sick of putting up with me. It was just me. It was just like Bones in a t-shirt and shorts. It was just gross.
Yeah, sick of putting up with you. You couldn't even say a word. You didn't have the energy to talk, Kenny. I swear to God, he could not say a word. That's a fact. I mean, but look, I have my theory, and I'll always hold to this: what you do in that octagon represents what you'll do in life. I would say that's even better than a lie detector test, and it's similar with the weight cut. He's got integrity. He's got his character he's got good morals. He's going to do it, like he's saying. I have to make the weight. I'm going to let people down. Even at his own demise. That's the way his brain's operating. And, it goes to show you who the person who he is. I guarantee you, a guy that doesn't make the weight, he's not going to do a lot of things. You know what I mean? He's not going to drive the extra 10 miles to pick up what you need him to pick up. He's going to find a way. I got to take a nap. I have to go here. It'll always be something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
Your brain will find a way to rationalize itself out of the situation. But with the guys that are strong-minded and determined, and successful, you're not going to see that.
Right. And if you do need a refresher, or if you haven't heard the story real quick, Ken Flo in Vancouver, absolute savage, makes the weight. Boston Bruins in the NHL playing the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup final. Ken Flo comes out wearing a Sean Thornton Bruins jersey that was probably like a medium, but it looked like a dress at the time. So Kenny's literally inciting these Vancouver fans, even though he's literally like basically half in the casket, right? Just incredible. And then the Bruins go on to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games, game 7 in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And to add to that, I've never been sworn at more in my life and thrown like people were throwing stuff at me. I was laughing as I walked out to the octagon. And then the other thing is the backdrop of that. If you guys remember, there were crazy riots when the Bruins won. They destroyed Vancouver for I don't know if it was at least one night of riots because they lost. So that's how crazy they take it. Like they took it very seriously. So it was, I probably was playing around with my life on 2 occasions, the weight cut and walking out with that Bruins jersey.
Yeah, two things. I'm
pretty dumb.
Yeah, 2 things on that. I do remember being in the streets and they were going freaking crazy, but it was a Canadian crazy. There was something crazy, but it wasn't crazy. But I remember a cop with his motorcycle. The guys were just jumping on his motorcycle. And I'm like looking at these, and the cop's just standing there chilling out. And I'm like, dude, if this is New York, that guy's getting hit in the head with the billy club. He's getting stomped on.
Right.
And fast forward to today, I think it's like Vancouver. I think you can sit on the guys, I swear to God. But back then, when I was watching, I was going, this is crazy. But,
so funny.
But Kenny was I don't know how he even made that fight. When we were sitting there, I might think of that accountant guy. I don't know if you remember that guy. So just a typical accountant. You got to sign the fucking. What exemptions do you need? The guy can't even speak. Kenny's not even making eye contact with the guy. This went on.
Ray stepped in and was like, "Hey, leave him alone."
Hey, buddy, how about get the fuck out of here? Talk to him after he hydrates.
Yeah,
he had to have those exemptions. Right now, the guy, Kenny never said a word. I guarantee you, never said a word. And the guy kept coming back. Then he come back again. And then I thought, like the last time I go, dude, you got to just go. You got to leave, man. Like there's nothing's going to happen. And then Kenny couldn't even say thank you to me. I feel him patting my leg, just like saying thank you.
Save the day.
Like Seabiscuit.
I did.
You know? But no, that's true. But that's crazy. It was good. John, how we even fought, it was really bad. I'm
total
telling
savage.
you.
Rare misstep by our guy Ronald to try to get business done, perhaps there by Ken Flo. But
was that Ronald? Was that his name?
Was it Ron? Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a Ronald.
Yeah. So for what?
Yeah.
We were asking if the accountant's name was Ronald.
Yeah. Oh, the accountant. No, I forget. Who the heck was it? I forget.
It wasn't our guy Ron. Shout out to Ron.
I don't know who Ronald is. And he was. I would know him if I saw him. I don't think he lasted long though. But
how about that?
What do we got?
Wait. First off, you better be at the gym.
Oh, I'm sitting in your chair right now. Come on, man.
Because I'm ready to rush out of here to go see you. So I'm saying, this motherfucker's home, man. This is bad. Look at him.
I'm about to play your guitar.
All right. That's what I want.
You do whatever you want while I intro UFC.
Yeah, look at him.
Lightweight, Matt the Steamroller Frevola, repping Longo Weidman MMA loud and proud. Huntington, New York's finest, representing Northwestern Suffolk County. You can tell this is what I've been preparing this morning. It's good to see you, man. Welcome to Fight Week.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So are you ready to go, kid, or what, man? 6 days from now, Madison Square Garden. If my research is accurate, you have only fought once as a pro in New York State.
Yeah. 4 years ago, we were at MSG. We had an awesome fight with Lando. And now, 4 years later, we're back. And I'm a different animal now, so I can't wait.
So it's your 8th UFC appearance. I know at times you wish that your schedule has been a little bit more active, but 5 of your first 7 UFC fights have been on pay-per-view cards. It seems like they know what they're doing. Oh, Cody's got the trumpets going. Cody, can you just kill that for a second? We'll fucking get to it. I mean, the guy taking over. I might have to demote Cody from executive producer to producer.
John, if I hear those trumpets again, I'm calling Lucky, and I swear to God, I'm calling the dog in.
It's been too much. Call Heidi Dean. She can affect a lot of change as far as that's concerned. But Matt, it just seems like they want you fighting on these pay-per-view cards because obviously you're an elite fighter, but you bring the show.
Yeah, I love it. Every time there's like a big pay-per-view card, I'm always trying to get on it, because like I'm a fan just as much as a fighter. I love like walking around and seeing like Stylebender, seeing Zhang Wei Li, seeing all the top, Dustin Poirier, seeing all the top fighters, so I always want to fight on the biggest cards possible.
All right, so you're coming off a win in January against Genaro Valdez. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That fight was 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Fight before that was 7 seconds. So 3 minutes and 22 seconds of octagon time dating to January of 2021. I know you figure to sort of be asked a lot about that this week. But January of 2021 was the night you were supposed to fight this dude, Otman Azaitar. So I guess that you're probably just anxiously awaiting Friday and Saturday and hoping that you actually get locked in the cage with this guy.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. This is the second full camp I've done for this guy. And, it's not rocket science. He's a righty boxer with heavy hands, throws a kick here or there. So, he's nothing I haven't seen before. We got guys in the gym that do that better than him. I'm ready to go and we're dialed in.
Is it difficult, having a fight canceled and having to reset everything again? How did you manage that mentally, and did it affect your preparation at all?
I mean, yeah, it was tough. It's not ideal. It's happened to me a couple times now. I do a whole camp for one guy. The last time I was supposed to fight Otman, I prepared for a boxer the entire time, and then the morning of weigh-ins, Dana White cuts him, and then they throw Armin at me, who's a wrestler. You know, it was, but I didn't go all the way to Abu Dhabi to not fight. So I took that fight. You know, I'm a well-rounded fighter. I'm prepared for anything. So, you know, I took that fight and had a good fight, you know, but yeah, it's not ideal.
So I want to be respectful of your time as your fight week begins. I just have a few more here with Matt the Steamroller Frevola. By the way, you can get his merchandise right now, millions.co, the Steamroller merch, just flying off the goddamn shelves. So when you first got to Sarah Longo MMA, I'm curious about your first encounter with Ray Longo. And I guess as a follow-up, like, who were you most enamored with, right? Was it Longo? Was it Weidman? Like, what got you in the door? Was it Raging Al? For me, Raging Al would have probably been the one that got me in the door.
He's getting like he's starting to sound like Helwani. I swear to God, this guy. I'm
prepared today. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Really, I got to give the credit to my wife, Billy Sinelli. She called him. She got me a private with the legend Ray Longo, and I got to do a private with Ray Longo, and then I had Chris Weidman just watching me, and it was insane. You know, it was a dream come true. You know, being a up and coming fighter from Long Island, you know, being able to train, you know, with Ray and with Chris watching, and then, you know, 5-6 years later, you know, we're fighting at MSG, and I got Ray walking out with me. You know, he's gonna be playing the air trumpets.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm gonna put on a great fight.
See, Joe, what I'm trying to get with Matt is he's telling the truth. He is enamored with everybody. I want everybody to be enamored with him. I try to tell him he's the star. You don't have to look at everybody's in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I really believe he's gonna make a great mark on the sport this Saturday night. He had a great camp. I'm excited for him, and he does love to fight, and that's always that you can't teach. You can't teach heart and determination like this kid has. So I'm super psyched that we're starting to think a little bit, right? We're starting to use that brain. I'm excited for him.
No, I really think you're like an active calendar year away from potential stardom, you know, just about getting in a fight schedule where, you know, longer fights. But I mean, obviously for our purposes, you dust this guy quickly. Great. Right. But fighting 3 times in a calendar year, fighting every 3 months, maybe having a short notice opportunity that you can step into. I know that's difficult, but you know, there's only a handful of ways you can really resonate with the fan base, and top of the list is to fight, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, one fight at a time. I'm looking to come out there and handle business at MSG. And then, you know, next year is going to be a big year for us.
All right, I got a few more. So Sal the Bulldozer Frevola is your father. You like great. That, right? See, this is all for you, Longo. So Sal, obviously Sal's going to be in the building, correct? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you said recently you will no longer be fist bumping Bruce Buffer before the fight, which is music to my ears. Can you tell our listeners and viewers why you're no longer going to fist bump?
This is new to me, too.
No, I learned that my UFC debut. I went out there and I bumped him, and then it didn't go my way. And then I started seeing that, you know, most guys who bump Buffer, you know, lose the fight. So
oh, man. John, Cody, can we get a stat on that? Can we get stats on that?
So this is kind of my fault. I started this, and Rogan loves when I interject this into the broadcast. But I was the first one to sort of say, well, I don't know, you know, you'll see how it goes. He just Bruce Buffer, and then guys started to lose. So definitely below 500, but we don't have the numbers for it.
Is Buffer robbing people of their testosterone? What's going on here? What's happening?
He's all up breathing COVID, great. All up in. We don't need him breathing COVID all up in the steamroller's face. All right, a few more rapid fire questions here with Matt Frevola, UFC lightweight, on the way out. Favorite New York sports team is who?
New York Mets, baby.
Oh, man. So you got permission from the New York Mets ownership, essentially, to walk out to that song? Do I have that right?
Oh, yeah. I was in the Steve Cohen suite at the Mets game, and talking to him, I told him, I was like, I want to walk out to the Timmy Trumpets, and he was about it. You know, he gave us the okay. He was pumped, and that's what we're doing.
It's really like the icing on top that you have his blessing. But you're Matt the Steamroller Frevola, to Longo's point, like, with respect, you don't need the guy, right? It's nice to have it, right? But it's like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if you get married, right? It's like you want to get the father's blessing, but if he says no, you're still probably getting down on one knee, right? So I don't know. All right. What's your least favorite sports team? Is it one that plays in New England or?
Yeah, when those Patriots were winning, I'm a Jets fan as well, and when those Patriots were just crushing it, it was, and I did I went to school for a little bit in Massachusetts, Dean College back in the day, so I was like around all these Patriots fans and Red Sox fans. It's a lot. It was rough up there, especially being a Jets guy.
Some assholes, huh, Ray?
I appreciate
assholes. I like that. So you were around a lot. You were around a lot of massholes.
A lot of them.
We can all agree that Philadelphia is trash here, though, right? Yeah. Right. Favorite New York athlete of all time?
Yeah, favorite New York athlete, man. I'm gonna have to go with our Mets captain, David Wright. Man, I like
that.
He was the man back in the day. He was always showed up, always ready to go. He's a captain. I know those Yankee fans like that Jeter guy, but David Wright was always my guy.
I love it. All right, Matt Frevola fights Otman Azaitar at UFC 281 live from Madison Square Garden this Saturday night. You can see it on ESPN Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass, ESPN Plus, and all sorts of other places. Check your local listings. Hey, Matty, we appreciate the time here during Fight Week. Wish you health and everything else and a great weight cut, and look forward to shaking your hand on Friday, my man.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to finally get on the Longo Minute, man.
Crash at any time.
I listen to this every week. And Ray, you got to get your ass to the gym. We got training.
I know. I'll be there in a half hour. I'm hanging up as soon as you get off.
Yeah, we'll get him out.
Which is really an hour on Ray time.
No. This one's a half hour. I got a busy day today.
Matt, good luck, man.
Fun.
Matty, I'll see you in a little bit.
Later.
All right, there he is, Matt the Steamroller Frevola with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. All right, Raymond, just figure we bring your guy in there. Anything else on that fight or anything else before we let you get to your business?
No, just he had a great camp, and I'm super excited to see him fight on Saturday night. He's just a really nice kid, and just what he said, like he really is in awe of just walking around seeing these guys. I think Aljo's had the same conversation with him, like. They might be just excited to see you. Like, that's what people don't realize, right? Because, obviously I go through them. Like, there's nothing special here. You're better off wanting to meet somebody else, But he's it goes to show you what a nice kid he is. And I just wish him the best.
And we wish you the best. I will see you in a couple days.
And I wish you guys the best.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Drive safely.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you next week.
What? And, I could have had you a table at Rayo's. If you had Wednesday night. That's a huge thing. Yeah, that's a huge thing.
You put it under Rogan, right? You tell him Joe Rogan's coming. You can't do anything. Yeah. Hey, thanks, buddy. Hey, have a great Sunday, okay? NFL starts 1 p.m. Eastern, all right?
All right, take it easy, guys.
If you think I'm done banging on Philadelphia, I'm not. I've been driving around for 10 days. Everybody's saying, oh, what a time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. The Eagles are 7-0 or 8-0. The Phillies are up 2-1 in the World Series. Well, it's Sunday, November 6th. The Phillies, and I love Bryce Harper, love his family, love his dad. Probably my favorite player in the big leagues. And I might have actually been rooting for the Phillies. But Phillies lost the World Series on Sunday. They lost the MLS Cup to LAFC, right? No Major League Soccer championship. And everybody wants to crown the Eagles in November. And Sean Brady still lost to Bilal Muhammad. So I don't know, man. Don't print the title. Well, I'm just saying, don't print the title town stuff yet. You
just went scorched earth on the city of Philadelphia just now.
When the Patriots and the Eagles played in their first Super Bowl against each other. I know the Eagles won the second one. Congratulations, Go Birds, right? I went to college in Pennsylvania. But going into that first one, Christian Fourier, former Patriots tight end, told me this story. He's a former ESPN colleague of mine, now on WEEI Sports Radio in Boston. So he basically said that Belichick got the team together during Super Bowl week, and he put the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade route on a monitor. And he was like, I just want to let you guys know that the Eagles have their Super Bowl parade all set for Tuesday. They're going to go down Broad Street, Patriots players all laughing, Had a lot of championship parades, a lot of duck boats in Boston. We don't plan those, though, until the hay is in the proverbial barn, as they say. Just having fun with Philly. We don't have a lot of listeners in Philadelphia. So, all right. So we're going to spin it forward now to UFC 281. It's live from New York this Saturday, and you can get closer to the Octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. And that, of course, is not all. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up parlays. You go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a parlay today with 3 or more picks, combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, total rounds, and much more. DraftKings Sportsbook application, I will tell you guys, is great. As easy to navigate as any, as many options in the sports betting space as anyone out there. And I expect UFC 281 to be as played as one of the biggest, most viewed cards of 2022. I know a lot of people who want action on both sides of the main event, and with payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where you should go to bet on UFC. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Jon Anik. Throw down $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. That is code Jon Anik, Jonanik, this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, main event challenge time as we call on Big Gun Brian Petrie. There are a couple of loose ends that I would like to tie up on UFC Fight Night before we dive in to the monster that is UFC 281. And by the way, I could have made these guys make 10 predictions today. They're picking 8 fights, so we're going pretty deep on the prelim portion. So you're going to get a lot of handicapping intel today from Ken Flo and from Brian Petrie. Just waiting on Petrie in the 3 box before I get into Daniel Rodriguez and Neil Magny. It's good to see you, man. Happy Sunday.
What's
Happy
up?
Sunday.
Bengals, baby. Bengals, baby. We need it. We need it before the bye, Johnny. Johnny, you went scorched earth on Philly. If you go to Philly, you're getting batteries thrown at you, bro. You better be careful.
Well, when we go to Philadelphia, UFC puts us up in Delaware, so it's all good.
That makes sense. There you go.
Did I really go score? I'm just saying, though.
I
it's
mean,
like I'm driving around, Brian.
Yeah, sure.
And like it's like you don't make room in the championship case for the trophy until you, and you know,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but Philly fans or Philadelphia they're brutal. They're next level, man. They're tough.
I actually think Sean Brady's going to get back into a title fight. I'm a huge fan of his. Like I really, truly am. I believe in him, the work ethic, the skill set, all of it, you know, but I'm a Boston guy who went to college in Pennsylvania. You know? Okay. And if people are going on vacation, are they going to Boston or Philadelphia? You tell me. Want to see the fucking Liberty Bell?
I've never been to Philly, but I've been to Boston several times. So, I mean, there you go.
All right.
They're coming to New York, like the UFC next week.
Yeah, they're coming after me. All right. A couple of loose ends that I wanted to tie up. Shailon Nurdan-Beke, or whatever we pronounced it last week, over Derek Minner by TKO at 107 of round number 1. But there's some sort of gambling underbelly here, Brian Petrie. Can you sort of alert the masses as to what's going on?
So he was plus 170 2 hours before the fight, 2 hours-ish. And then it jumped up to plus 330 something. And then Shailon went up to minus 200 to minus 450. So someone knew the pre-existing injury going in on Minner. Minner had that knee injury before going in. That's been made clear. So someone put a hefty bag on Shailon a couple hours before the fight. And that, I think there's going to be some kind of investigation. They were just talking about that one Korean fighter or Chinese fighter, Bang. He went to jail for 10 months for trying to fix fights. I'm not saying there's a fix fighting here, but camps talk. And we just went through the whole UFC's not letting but fighters bet anymore, right? We went through that whole thing.
Yeah.
So this is just, listen, I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying my eyes are up because I track these things. Wow. And you never see a spike like this an hour or two before a fight. Like, it was insane. I'm like, and I had Shailon in my parlay. I can't live bet, so it's whatever. I had him in my parlay, and I was like, and my buddies are texting me like, hey, dude, Minner first round submission. I go, I don't know about that. Look at this. I showed him the chart. It's weird, man. It's something's going on there.
Brian,
eyes are open. Yeah.
Brian, what kind of a bet would it take to jump the line that much? Like, what are we talking here, dude? Do you know?
I mean, yeah. See, look at that spike. I really don't know. It was substantial. It really depends on what the money
like tens of thousands.
Yeah, could have been.
Really?
It could have been. I mean, we're not looking at a couple $100 here. We're looking at probably a couple thousand for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That spike is. That's insane. I mean, you don't see that ever, and especially 2 hours before the guy fights. Like, so Again, not pointing fingers. A lot of people online are pointing fingers, but there's some suspicious shit going on right there. That's for sure. I'm
crazy. Glad I asked. And if it wasn't an NFL Sunday, I'd probably get off the air and go down a rabbit hole and try to dive into all
I was last night. I was on Reddit last night. Bad mistake.
I didn't even see the fight. You're breaking the news to me now that Derek Minner had a knee injury. You know what I was doing this morning? I watched the two kickboxing matches between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira, and I don't know if there's really much fruit there.
Sure.
Before we move on, and Ken Flo, feel free to chime in. Just wanted to touch on the co-main event. Neil Magny over Daniel Rodriguez by submission. We acknowledge Neil for passing George St. Pierre, more UFC welterweight wins than anybody in the illustrious history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is just insane. You could argue certainly a missed opportunity on the other side for D-Rod. Any thoughts on the co-main, BP, before we spin it forward?
Neil did what Neil does. Kenny and I text I can't predict this guy's fight. You just can't do it. He looked grimy. My biggest takeaway is, why is D-Rod, who's leaning at will at range, clinching? He initiated several clinches. And I'm like, I know that's like part of your game. You're crashing in with some of your punches, but I don't know about that. He obviously got tired in that third round, and Neil Magny just doesn't get tired. That's just his thing. Like, he just doesn't. And I'm happy for Neil. It's a crazy record that Neil Magny holds the most wins. And no disrespect to Neil Magny, when you think of welterweight greats, George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Kamaru Usman now, and Neil Magny's above all of them in that statistic. So it's just pretty fun. But listen, I lost money on D-Rod. I was very confident in D-Rod. It was a odd fight. And again, I can't get a Neil Magny fight right. That guy's going to burn me every time.
There are varying degrees in terms of how attached to singular results some of these fighters are. And certainly some of these fighters aren't as championship driven as others. Now, I'm not saying that D-Rod is not championship driven, but when I see what he says sort of after the fact, he strikes me as a guy who is going to move on and move on well from this. But I don't know. I just think that, everything in certain fighters' careers is calculated when it comes to taking certain fights and abbreviated training camps and trying to put yourself in position. This is a legitimate championship setback for D-Rod, and I'm not sure he cares as much as maybe somebody like you or his fan base does right now.
Yeah. He's 35 too, and he came in late, so he doesn't have as many miles on him. But this is an ugly loss for him, I think.
All right, let us get into the picks for UFC 281, Adesanya versus Pereira. First prelim for us will be at flyweight. 12th ranked Aaron Blanchfield minus 380. It's a big number, Bri. 15th ranked Molly McCann comes back at plus 310. McCann has won 3 in a row. They've all produced bonuses. She's got to deal with Barstool Sports, but it's so much more than that. This is an evolved fighter. Your thoughts on her here in a big spot, at least the odds makers and the betting public to this point, not giving McCann much of a shot.
Yeah, sorry, I had to throw on a hat. My Elvis Wayne Newton hair was really
I actually was really liking it. All natural.
High. Yeah, I got a thick head of hair. It was way,
you know how John gets with hair.
I know. I threw the hat on. I was like, I had it next to me. Fuck it. Anyway, this fight's great. Listen, how can you not love Meatball? The Barstool signing's great because she's getting out there. She's got personality for days. Not to mention, she started her UFC career a little rough. Not the most exciting fighter. She won some, lost 2 in a row, and is rattling off wins. She's coming off 2 incredible knockouts. Her boxing is great. Her cardio is great. She's at a grappler's gym with Patty over there in Liverpool. But listen, Aaron Blanchfield's a fucking stud. This girl, 23 years old.
Yeah,
she's so good. Cardio on point. She's tough. And her grappling, I think, is going to be the edge here. Blanchfield, it's a huge number. And I don't play 23-year-old fighters at this huge number. I just can't do it. But I like maybe Blanchfield by decision. I think this is a bad matchup for Molly McCann. It hurts my heart picking against her. I think she's a live dog because we haven't seen enough from Blanchfield yet. And this is a big test. And when you're 23, you could break. And Molly's not going to fucking break. So Molly is a live dog, especially at this number. It's gorgeous. But I really am high on Blanchfield, especially what she did to Miranda Maverick and how good Miranda Maverick looked last week. I'm going to go Blanchfield by decision.
And you're trying to pick winners. Blanchfield hugely favored here. Yeah. As Brian mentioned, Kenny, 23 years old, won the Eddie Bravo Invitational at 18. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. New Jersey versus Liverpool. Which way you going?
This is the new generation of fighters that we're getting now, right, guys? It's kids that start out training in jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. I think by 12, Aaron knew that she wanted to be a professional fighter at 12 years old. Like, get out of here. That's insane, So that's tough for someone like Molly who doesn't have that same level of martial arts experience. However, Molly is a problem, and I think she is going to be a problem on the feet. It's going to come down to her ability to be efficient. You need Erin to not be very efficient, maybe expend a lot of energy on takedowns and things like that, and then get caught, maybe lose confidence because she doesn't have, a ton of MMA experience. That's Molly's best bet. She could pull it off. It's definitely not out of the question at all. I do think there's some value there with Molly, but it's hard to go against some like Erin, who's so young and has so much skill.
Yeah.
All right, next prelim BP, big fight at lightweight here, or at light heavyweight, I should say. Former world title challenger, 7th ranked Dominic Reyes, minus 215 or so. Number 12, Ryan Spann, plus 185. Spann with some momentum now. He's won 2 of 3, a couple of quick finishes in there. Looks like he's entering his prime at 31. Reyes is 32, as you guys know, now training in Danbury, Connecticut, alongside Glover Teixeira. Maybe a little bit wider than I expected. I had written down Reyes minus 180. He's minus 215. Yep. How do you see this one playing out, Bri, at 205 pounds?
Yeah, the line paused me because maybe I'm discrediting Spann, but he's 6-2 in the UFC, which is crazy. He's got big power and he's got a dangerous guillotine too. That gilly is tight. And you got Reyes coming off 3 straight losses, but against some elite competition, right? So you kind of give him a pass over the guys he's lost to. But regardless of competition, this is a must win for him. So when I first saw this fight lined up, I go, oh, this is kind of like they want Reyes to win, right? Because this is a guy that people still to this day thought beat John Jones. He's got the athletic background. He's, marketable. But then when I dug deeper into it, I'm like, man, Ryan Spann is not this guy who I'm capping him to be. So I really kind of got in the weeds in this fight. And the one thing I came to conclusions, I don't like it because the line is too wide for me. Like you said, John, I'm going to pick Reyes. I'm not confident. I think the both guys are explosive, but I like Reyes' straight punches as opposed to Ryan Spann's looping punches. Reyes is going to get to the target first. And I'm really curious to see if it hits the mat. With him training with Glover, to me, it seems like he's going to be working on maybe some takedowns, some top control, some top pressure, which is what Glover's forte is. So I'm really interested to see if it hits the mat because I think Ryan Spann is dangerous there as well. But give me Reyes by decision. I don't love it, though. I have other fights I love. Sorry, but I don't love this fight.
So I thought for years that Kenny was maybe mispronouncing Dominic Reyes, and sure as shit, Ken Flo, you were right the whole time. Cody has the file. I don't know if we even want to rack it, but I had to before we picked another Dominic Reyes fight because he hasn't fought since May of 2021. The knockout loss to Yuri Prochazka, no doubter for fight of the night, but yeah. Kenny almost has this Peruvian like Reyes or whatever the fuck he says. And shit if he isn't right. Cody, do you have that file by chance?
Of course.
Dominic the Devastator Reyes. Dominic the Devastator Reyes.
All right, well, Ken Flo's the man. What else? The big show for Team Florian today. Kenny, I think you're muted, but who do you have winning this fight?
Thank you. Dominic Reyes, I think you look at his last 3 fights, they've all been to champions. John Jones, Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka. I mean, that's tough to deal with. So he certainly has faced the higher level of competition. I don't know how that's affected his confidence and his training. Sometimes it's like, lost 3 in a row. I'm never going to make it back. Screw this. Let me just fight for a paycheck now. That could happen. I don't think that's going to be the case here, but it could be the case. Ryan Spann is going to be a dangerous out. He's a guy that is good at finishing fights. Does he have solid enough fundamentals to back up that danger? I'm not quite so sure because when it breaks down for him, it breaks down big time. And a guy like Dominic Reyes is the kind of guy that can take advantage of those breakdowns and expose you. So I think Reyes is a little bit more fundamentally sound. I also think he's still dangerous. It might take him a little bit to kind of get into his groove in this fight, but I'll take Dominic here.
And I will say the General Saif Saud, head coach at Fortis MMA, is one of the people I'm probably closest with in the MMA space. And Ryan seems to have turned a corner mentally, and there's an urgency about him in training and otherwise that did not exist prior. So perhaps that factors into your handicap as well. All right, featured prelim. Bettable fight here, I would think, Brian, lightweight. Renato Moicano minus 125, Brad Quake Riddell plus 105. Huge fight for both guys. You know, Riddell had risen to as high as, I think, number 11 in the world. Unranked now after the back-to-back losses to Rafael Fiziev and Jalen Turner. Those guys now number 6 and number 10 in the world, respectively. So not much loss there. Your thoughts on Riddell, slightly the dog here against Renato Moicano?
Well, Ohio sports betting can't come soon enough because I would be hammering this line right now. I like Riddell in this spot big time, plus money. It's probably going to be a pick 'em, maybe even he'll close as a small favorite. Moicano has a really nice second run here at 155, right? The RDA fight he took on short notice, showed his toughness, very impressive, showed it all his heart, but he struggles with dynamic strikers. It's his calling card. Aldo, Zombie, Fiziev, they all knocked him out. Clean, right? And Riddell is a clean striker with above average takedown defense at 62%. He's cardio's good, and he's been in camp with his dogs. He's been in camp with Carlos Ulberg. He's been in camp with Dan Hooker. Been in camp with Izzy Adesanya. He's in shape. Like, he's ready to go. And when you're giving me plus money, I love it. I like Riddell here, and I'm going to add KO to my card as well. Possibly early when Connor's tough and dangerous on the ground. If he gets to the ground, he gets his back, it's going to be a problem. But give me Riddell by KO. I'm loving it.
All I know is that if Brad Riddell stood in front of me, hands behind his back, and let me punch him in the face as hard as I could, I wouldn't knock him out. Not on the first try, that's for sure. So Brian mentioned the Moicano Rafael dos Anjos fight, Kenny. Sort of a weird 5-round co-main event at UFC 272 back in March. Moicano exuded a lot of toughness as he has done throughout 13 fights in the UFC. Your thoughts on him here? A slight favorite over Brad Riddell.
Yeah, to Brian's point, I think more than anything else, I think Moicano struggles with guys that are faster than him. It's the shots he doesn't really see. I don't think that was an issue for him in the RDA fight. RDA doesn't have the speed of some of those other guys, so he could at least see those shots coming. And I think on the ground is real. He was kind of struggling a little bit there against RDA, but in this fight against Brad, this is a tough one for me. I do think Brad will most likely win. I think Brad has the ability to finish this fight. Moicano can, but it's just weird the way that they match up against each other. I think Riddell's speed is going to be a problem. The problem with Riddell is he gets caught up just fighting. Like it almost becomes this street fight where he's not really listening to his corner. He's not listening to anybody. He's caught in the moment and just trying to knock your head off. I still think that's going to be good enough against someone like Moicano, just because Moicano makes some mistakes on the feet, which makes him vulnerable to that style. But it's going to be tough for him as he kind of steps up. But give me Riddell here as well.
All right, before we get into the pay-per-view main card, Kenny, were you looking for some clarification on Chris Tognoni, the referee, as to how we're pronouncing his name? It seemed like there was some chat between you guys.
Yeah, I was laughing about it just because, you guys will always pronounce his name as Tognoni. And then I think Bruce says something different. Am I incorrect on that?
A lot of us are on different pages when it comes to Chris Tognoni. I don't know how many of us have sought him out.
And just laughed. Yeah.
I mean, if my pits weren't stained right now, I'd say raise your hand if you have actually sought Chris out to get to the bottom of it, because I have.
Right.
So it's Tognoni, but he has been ubiquitously referred to as Chris Tioni for so long that he's okay if people don't go with the correct Italian pronunciation, but it is Chris Tognoni, and Buffer and I will keep agreeing to disagree. All right, pay-per-view opener, Dan Hooker minus 155, Claudio Puelles plus 135. So Hooker back to lightweight. He had that slip up against Arnold Allen, if you want to call it that, at featherweight in March. 20th UFC fight for the Hangman. Kenny was in the building for his UFC debut in Auckland back in 2014. On the other side, Puelles has won 5 in a row, unbeaten dating to 2016. He has been on this podcast. He is still only 26 years old. But, Bri, make no mistake about it, right? Yeah. Moments like this don't necessarily come around again, whether you're 26 or 36.
Sure.
Big moment for Claudio Puelles. Will the Peruvian prince seize it or no?
I couldn't agree more. This is a huge fight, regardless of Dan Hooker being 1-4 in his last 5. He's got a big name. He's fought the who's who. Didn't look good in the Allen fight, but he shouldn't have no business being at 145. I mean, he's a big kid. Puelles, so this 5-1 UFC dog walked Jordan Levitt. How do you feel about Jordan Levitt? Took Grutzmacher's leg home. Took Clay Guida's leg home. This kid's slick on the ground. That Clay Guida knee bar was so quick and fast. Super impressive by him. The Levitt fight, he had top control. He had good takedowns for a guy not coming from wrestling. And each time I've seen him fight, I watched all his fights in UFC, his stand-up is increasingly getting better. And he's a big kid, too. He's going to match size with Hooker. I'm actually surprised by the line. I thought Hooker might have been a dog here, and I was willing to take that Hooker shot. But Claudio's been on this podcast. The time is now. I think he literally needs to win this fight. It's early, and I don't want to overstate it, but this is a big fight for him, for sure. And Claudio's been on this podcast, and guys that have been on this podcast stay winning, baby. They stay winning. Frevola's going to win. I already got the steamroller locked up. So give me Claudio here. I think by sub as well. I think Dan Hooker's all camp is the ground is lava. The ground is lava. Don't go there. But in these wild transitions, regardless of takedown or not, he can lock something up. So I like Claudio here for sure.
If my deodorant was working, Ken Flo, I would grab what was my parting gift when I left ESPN in 2011. Right now, it is an MMA Live collage, and it has this MMA Live curse. And it's the opposite of what you're saying. And for a podcast, guys are winning. But there was a time, as Kenny knows, where Miguel Torres, Rashad Evans, Stephan Bonner, everybody who we had on our show was losing, except actually your boy Flo. But there was a time where basically anybody we had on MMA Live was losing their fight. Kenny, your father, Dr. Florian, is listening. You come from a Peruvian family. I know you love both of these guys, but we're going to need a pick. Is it going to be Dan Hooker or Lima Peru's Claudio Puelles?
Oh, man. Listen, I think that Dan Hooker is the kind of guy that has struggled as of late because he hasn't made changes in his game, and that can be very problematic for fighters in this game because everyone's studying, right? The coaches, the fighters, all that stuff. From what I hear, Dan has changed up a lot of things, has acknowledged that he's had some weaknesses and is trying to make things better. I assume he's going to be better. I think if we see the Dan Hooker that we've seen in previous fights, I think Claudio wins this fight. This is going to be a tough fight for him. I still think Claudio wins this fight, but it's not going to be easy. This is a huge step up for him. When you're talking about experience, that matters. Skill-wise, I think Claudio matches him skill-wise. No question about it, but experience absolutely matters. So I think this is a huge fight for Claudio to see how far he's come. Right, since he first came into the UFC. Dan Hooker is a tough out for anybody. I think he's tough on the ground. He's tough on the feet. But for Claudio, he's going to have to mix everything up and really be very clean in this fight. I'm going to go with Claudio as well. Unfortunately, BP and I are kind of going tit for tat here. We're just kind of picking the same fights. But I like Claudio here. One thing, John, I would say this. I would ask Claudio again. Please. I know the Saudi about the pronunciation of his name because I think it might be Puelles, not Puelles.
Yeah, so it is more of a poi than a poo. You're right. Claudio Puelles.
I would check on Puelles. But obviously there's different accents and stuff like that. But I would ask Claudio one more time on that one.
Yeah, we will.
If he was from Philly, it'd be poo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, as I am setting up this next fight, I want you guys to come up with a guess as to how much total octagon time Frankie Edgar has had, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
No man nor woman has as much octagon time as Frankie Edgar. He has spent a shit ton of time inside those 8 walls. At bantamweight, folks, Chris Gutierrez minus 205, 12th ranked Frankie Edgar plus 175. In all likelihood, this is the retirement fight for the tri-state area native and New Jersey Toms River guy, Frankie Edgar. He made his UFC debut 2 years after Ken Flo did, UFC 67. Wow. That was February 3rd, 2007. He beat Tyson Griffin that night, took his O, actually. Now UFC start number 30 for the man with more accrued octagon time than anyone ever. Bri, how much octagon time for Frankie? And then we'll need a pick.
I'm gonna go. Oh man, I think I want to. I'm gonna go low ball. Price right rules. I'm gonna go like 4 hours in 47 minutes.
All right, now for your prediction, sir.
Yeah, the answer: Frankie Edgar, FV strong, baby. I love Frankie Edgar. Listen, I was a BJ Penn guy coming up as a fan, and when he lost in Abu Dhabi, or he beat BJ Penn at UFC 112 in Abu Dhabi, I was very upset because I thought BJ won that fight. Lo and behold, Frankie became one of my favorite fighters because undersized. Those Gray Maynard fights were unbelievable. This guy seems like a great father, great dad. He's never had out of the cage trouble. You know what I mean? And Frankie, I hope he rides off to the sunset happy. We well deserved, one of the best in the sport. As far as the matchup goes, I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. Is a swan song here. Chris Gutierrez, undefeated in the UFC, great striker, calf kicks her son of a bitch. His spinning attacks, he doesn't span them all that much. He sets them up really well. He knocked out Donna Baccarao in Columbus, which was a great setup. I saw that live. And, his takedown offense is 73%, but he hasn't really been in there with pure grapplers. And Frankie has to wrestle. We can't fuck around. In the Cheeto fight, Frankie was looking pretty good, so he got kicked in the head, but that's kind of Cheeto's thing. Frankie needs to wrestle here. Frankie needs to put him on his back. Frankie's ground and pound on top, cutting to that guard, and even staying in the guard has been really good throughout his career. I mean, he butchered Yair Rodriguez a few years ago, even, Charles Oliveira a few years ago as well. Frankie needs to kind of go old school here and just wrestle because he's that good. But I'm worried about the KOs. 3 of his 5 losses have been like ugly KOs, and I'm talking ugly, boys. But, and there's always a but, is MSG. I'm not picking against Frankie Edgar and MSG. Tom's River, tough. Give me Frankie Edgar by decision. Nice little dog number there, too. Give me Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, plus 175 on the money line, and certainly sweeter than that to win by decision, albeit probably not much higher than 225 or so, but maybe. On the other side, you have Chris Gutierrez, Factory X. How is he not ranked, right? Lost his debut in 2018. Since he is 6-0-1, won 3 in a row, certainly going to be ranked and have that number next to his name should he come through as the favorite here. Ken Flo, total octagon time for Frankie Edgar, and who wins the fight?
Gosh, 5 hours?
All right, ready for this, guys? 7 hours and 55 minutes and 9 seconds. He'll pass 8 hours if this one hits the second round.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Almost 8 hours, man. Ken Flo,
damn.
Your thoughts on beast. Gutierrez and Edgar, and ultimately whose hand will be raised?
Gutierrez is tough, man. Certainly this is the biggest name he's faced, no question about it. Frankie, of course, in his last fight here, but I agree with Brian. He's got to take him down. I think if he's able to do that, he can either control him or potentially grind him out for a TKO win, maybe a little bit later in the fight. That's, I think, his best bet, just to be positionally sound, set up his takedowns properly, and hit him. So if Frankie's able to do that, I think he wins this fight. Chris is going to be dangerous on the feet, no question about it. His speed could be a problem for Frankie, his feints. But I like Frankie here as well, man. It's hard for me to cheer against a guy who's been fighting since my generation, right? And who's accomplished all these things in the sport, things that I haven't done, accruing almost 8 hours of fight time now. That's insane.
Nuts. That
level of durability and reliability and consistency is just nuts to me. I think the legend gets it done here. I would love to see him know. I don't know Chris. It's not against Chris, but again, to see Frankie go out on these kind of terms at MSG would be tremendous.
Yeah.
New York Newsday asked me for a quote this week, and I said, there was a time when it felt like he was like the most beloved American mixed martial arts athlete. Like, not since Chuck Liddell was an American fighter as revered as Frankie was there for a time, and certainly his
our version of Rocky.
Yeah, you're right.
For sure.
In the UFC Hall of Fame, shortly after his career is all said and done. All right. As the Islam Makhachev era gets underway, I enjoyed saying that. Let us get to this featured bout at lightweight. Now, it seems that there are rumblings that the promotion isn't necessarily hell-bent on making a fight between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski in Perth come mid-February. Perhaps the next championship opportunity goes to the winner here. Dustin Poirier, minus 175. Michael Chandler, plus 150. 3 rounds, not 5. Seems to be some misinformation out there. My fight card says 3. Poirier, former UFC interim lightweight champion, maybe seemed to take issue with the fact that Chandler got fast-tracked upon arrival in the UFC. At least from my vantage point, that appears to be the genesis of the friction. But of course, more importantly, this is a huge fight, as anticipated as any in 2022. And little curveball. We're going to lead with Ken Flo. You going Poirier or Chandler under the lights at Madison Square Garden in 6 days?
So both these guys have had a history of being involved in some crazy fights. I think that with Dustin, he's a little bit more consistent as far as his ability to stick to a plan and look for a way to win. Michael Chandler is enchanted with entertaining. And that doesn't always equal success, right, at the highest levels in mixed martial arts. There's just so much going on. There's so many ways to make a mistake out there. Chandler is just a little bit too much of a wild card. Awesome to watch him fight. He's exciting as hell. I love his attitude. I think the dude's an absolute beast. For Dustin Poirier, though, I think he's going to be a little bit more fundamentally sound. He's not going to be as emotionally charged heading into this fight. Has also proven to be extremely durable. This is going to be an awesome fight. This was a classic when it was announced. But I like Dustin here. I think he's going to be a little bit more durable, a little bit smarter in his execution here.
You put it masterfully as usual, and I wrote down enchanted with entertaining because this enchantment with entertainment for Chandler has lined his pockets, right? So there is some cerebral sense in it, Kenny, right? And certainly on the heels of the Tony Ferguson knockout, if he finishes Dustin Poirier, and I don't think this fight is going the distance, by the way, which is probably the minority opinion, but if Michael Chandler finishes Dustin Poirier, he's probably going to get a title fight. So I agree with you that he does seem enchanted with entertaining, even at times when he should not be. I have no idea which way this one goes, Bri. What's your expert opinion?
It's a banger with a capital bang, boys. Oh my gosh. Listen, I don't know if this fight gets out of the first round. Both these guys get after it. Chandler's explosive and leads the dance, and Poirier is such a good counterpuncher. His left hand is sniping, and I think his best punch is his counter check hook, his check right hook, what he hit Conor with, what he hits a lot of guys with. But Chandler gets hit a lot and proven that, Chandler does get hit a lot, and Poirier has proven that you don't want to get hit by him. The X factor is the wrestling. Let's not forget that Michael Chandler, even though this is MSG, even though he cuts a hell of a promo after the fight, this kid can wrestle. His double leg, his power double leg is superb. And when he was in Bellator, a lot of times when his back was against the wall, he leaned on the wrestling, that Mizzou wrestling. And I think he's coming in shape. I think he's prepared for this. I don't know if he went to Florida for this camp. I think he stayed in Nashville the entire time, and I think he's just grinding wrestling. So I like that. I like that he needs to wrestle here. So I have written down Poirier because I think Poirier is too much of a sniper. However, I'm not going to keep picking with Kenny. This fight to me is a really good value play with Chandler. I think Chandler can wrestle. I think he has a big power here. Poirier, they've been making a lot of big deal about how Poirier's never lost 2 in a row or something like that. I think that's Jinx talking right there. Give me Michael Chandler. Let's mix it up, babe. I like Michael Chandler here to blow the roof off. And selfishly, I think Michael Chandler matches up better with Islam than Poirier did because I feel like we've seen that with the Khabib fight.
Yeah, fair. Nicely done, Bri. All right, let's get to the co-headliners. Zhang Weili, minus 340. Carla Esparza plus 280 as she makes this first title defense of her second reign as champion. As many of you know, Zhang Weili won the belt in 2019, defended it in 2020, lost it in 2021, then lost a second time to Rose Namajunas before a sensational knockout of Joanna Jędrzejczyk at UFC 275 in Singapore. That laid the foundation for her to get the throne back. You think she gets by Carla? Certainly the odds makers and the betting public to this point expect Zhang Weili to come through.
Yeah, what jumps out at me is this why. And Carla typically gets disrespected by Vegas. She's always the underdog, it seems like, and she always pulls out the win. I don't want to disrespect Carla, 2-time champion, unbelievable fighter. I know her last fight with Rose was very pedestrian. Let's all forget about that. But Zhang Weili is a freak. Did you see her single leg Ngannou and pick him up over his head? It was a 115-pound woman who is not only getting better, but getting more confident with her move out to Arizona. She looked incredibly impressive over Joanna. No one's ever done that over Joanna besides Rose at one time. And then on the Rose fight, she really made improvements, and it was a very close fight. I mean, a lot of people could say she won. And I hate disrespecting Carla because I like her. I respect her. She's great. I don't think she sniffs a takedown over Zhang Weili here. I don't think she's going to be able to hang on the feet. I like Zhang Weili big here. I like her by KO and new, baby, and new.
Yeah, Ken Flo, it's an interesting one. Certainly Carla Esparza is the Menlo College scholarship wrestler, and that has certainly been her bread and butter in the UFC. I did think she beat Rose Namajunas in what was one of the more listless UFC championship fights of all time. But Zhang Weili right now is minus 340. I wouldn't be surprised to see this close north of minus 400. The experts seem to be aligned on Zhang Weili in a big way. Are you on that side as well?
I am. I think that, Carla has one way to win, and it's going to be 25 minutes of taking her down repeatedly. She's not known for having tremendous TKO power. I don't think she's good enough submission-wise yet to be a problem for Zhang Weili, who has been improving her grappling skills significantly. I think that speed and power is going to be the biggest difference here in this fight. Zhang Weili has all of that. I think Carla's not quite prepared for the level of speed. And the fact that, again, Zhang is training with a lot of high-level wrestlers, training with Cejudo and all those people over there. She not only for this fight is it the right choice, but it's for the right choice for her career moving forward. So I think Zhang Weili gets it done, and she gets that belt.
All right, let us get to the main event for the undisputed UFC middleweight championship. I have waited for this moment on this show since this fight was announced. I'm just going to lay out and listen to you guys. Israel Adesanya, right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 170. Alex Pereira, plus 145. The kickboxing meetings were in 2016 in China. That fight went the distance, 29-28 times 3 to Pereira. Rematch, March of 2017, with a Sao Paulo, Brazil backdrop, left hook in round 3 for the knockout for Pereira. No, it wasn't a left hook, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a left hook. Excuse me.
Yeah.
All right. Bri?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you lead here.
Yes,
Adesanya, Pereira. Which way are you going?
All right. I've seen this before. I mean, it's over the top. It's Stallone action. This fight warrants it. This fight warrants it. I am jacked to the tits for this fight. I've wanted this fight since Adesanya signed the UFC. I don't follow kickboxing as much as I should, but I knew about this rivalry, right? I watched the first 2 fights several times, right? First fight, I thought Izzy actually won. I thought he had the bigger moments, but, I don't score kickboxing. Second fight, he was winning. And then fucking that Thanos gauntlet left hook of Alex Pereira will make you disappear. And that's exactly what happened to Izzy. Now, Izzy comes into MMA and he's killing it. And everyone's like, oh, well, Pereira doesn't deserve it. He's 3-0 in the UFC, just knocked out Sean Strickland, who's undefeated at 185 pounds. And he's got 2 wins over him in kickboxing with all his credentials. Yeah, he's earned it. Okay, pipe down, people. He's earned this shot. This is what we all want to see, right? Izzy's had a problem with 2 guys in the UFC. Kelvin Gastelum, which was an absolute dog war, and then Jan Blachowicz with that weird style. Other than that, he controls fights. I don't know if he's gonna be able to do that against Pereira here because Pereira is such a good elite kickboxer. Kickboxing stand-up is a little bit different than MMA stand-up. There's different rhythms to it. I think Izzy has mastered the rhythm of MMA kickboxing because MMA fighting because he's been in it longer more. But Pereira has that game changer with the left hook. I'm going to take Izzy here. I love Izzy Adesanya. I think he's fundamentally better. I think, we could possibly see a takedown if I can't say it with a straight face, but you never know. But I'm going to take Izzy here because I just think there's a pride and ego thing with him going 0-2. And I could spend another 2 hours on this fight because I'm so excited for it. But I'm not going to feel confident. I am going to do a hefty bet because Izzy is my guy. And I'm going to be sweating the whole time because even with 2 seconds left in that 5th round, that fucking left hand can come out of nowhere. But I like Izzy just being able to control it a little more. Michael Bisping thinks that it's going to be a little more aggressive. Izzy's going to get after it. I don't know if I see a finish happening. I just see Izzy being a little bit more careful, picking him apart, picking his spots. I think he has a speed advantage. The only issue is sometimes in MMA, and Kenny's going to talk about this, I've heard him say it before, Izzy, when he gets out of the pocket, his chin is up in the air. And that's kind of what happened to Sean Strickland when he got caught with the left hook. I'm going to shut up now because I want to hear what Kenny says. Izzy by decision is my official pick.
Ken, Phil, the last style bender, Israel Adesanya, really thrives under pressure, but he has put a lot of it on himself in the lead up to this fight, saying, this is the fight that I've got to have. And who knows exactly what happened in terms of the end of his kickboxing career and when he went full throttle into MMA, but Adesanya has never been finished in mixed martial arts. He has been wildly successful as a middleweight. Pereira was submitted in his pro MMA debut. Now, he wasn't all in MMA at that time, but he's won 6 in a row, a 3-0 start in the UFC, has vaulted him into this championship setting against Adesanya. It's a huge, huge fight in terms of legacy and fan appeal. I'm dying to know which way you're going. Pereira, Adesanya, who wins the middleweight title?
Yeah, so when you look at kickboxing, there's just not the level of kickboxing, especially in the higher weight classes. Once you get to about welterweight and above, in my opinion, it's not so high level. And it doesn't mean it's not impressive, but when you think about the greatest Muay Thai fighters, kickboxers, for me, as far as high level technique, you're talking about the lighter weight classes. And then I think, as we talked about at the beginning of this show, you can throw out those kickboxing fights. I don't think that really means anything. Where it might mean something is, does Israel get too emotionally charged and, get too fired up and get away from his game plan? I don't think that's going to happen here. Let's look at their last few fights in mixed martial arts in the UFC. All right. So we have Andreas Michailidis. You know that guy, right? Bruno Silva. And then Sean Strickland. Mm-hmm. Now let's compare let's go last three fights for Izzy. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori. Let's keep going. Jan Blachowicz, Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker again, Kelvin Gastelum, Anderson Silva, Derek Brunson, Brad Tavares, Marvin Vettori again. The level of competition, you can't even compare. Now, Pereira, is he a knockout threat even against someone like Israel Adesanya? There's no question in my mind that if he lands that nasty left hook, he can put Israel Adesanya out. I've seen a seriousness and a respect on the face of Israel Adesanya that I have not seen in a very long time. He's not trying to clown around. He's not trying to, show off or talk shit. He has been all business. This has been like the most business like I've seen him since maybe his first couple fights in the UFC. He's taking this with a level of seriousness that is significant. Now, that all means nothing at the end of the day. Let's talk about some of the technique stuff. Israel Adesanya's footwork is going to be a problem for Alex Pereira. That's why I think Pereira is trying to get in Izzy's head. He wants Izzy to stand in front of him. If Izzy stands in front of him, if any man stands in front of Alex Pereira, you will get knocked out. Izzy has to move his feet, show a lot of lateral movement, stick and move. For Izzy to win this fight, he's going to have to be perfect for all 25 minutes. I don't think can Izzy knock him out? Maybe with a counter shot, maybe he TKOs him. I don't really see that happening. Izzy's going to have to be perfect for 25 minutes. That's where I think that focus and understanding is coming with Izzy. Like, that's why he's coming into this fight very serious. He understands he has to be perfect for 25 minutes. Pereira has to be perfect just for like 1 second. He needs one shot, right? Which is fine, well and dandy, but when you look at the level of competition that Izzy has faced, a lot of knockout punchers with, decent footwork, all that stuff, I think Izzy knows how to stay disciplined during a fight. And I think he understands the gravity of this one and how serious this one is. Pereira is a big-time threat. But I think where Pereira is going to struggle is with his footwork. He's a little too flat-footed for me to go, hey, this is a guy that is absolutely going to knock out Adesanya. Can he? Potentially. But for me, it's not a strong enough conviction based on his footwork, based on his style, and based on his level of competition in the UFC for me to say he's the guy that beats Izzy. So I like Izzy here. I think it's going to be tough, but I think he gets it done. I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting fight on his part, but I think Izzy wins this.
Do you predict that grappling will be involved in the fight or minimally?
I think minimally.
Okay.
No. I don't think either guys really want to be there too much. I hear Pereira's grappling is not to be underestimated. And I think Adesanya has been improving those skills tremendously. Maybe we see a takedown. Maybe we see some controlled ground and pound, but I don't think either one of those guys are heading into this fight thinking, I'm going to take this fight to the ground because I can submit that other guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my sense.
Mm-hmm. All right. If you want more from our handicapper, Brian Petrie, at Brian Petrie MMA on Twitter, and of course his MMA Takes podcast, Locked and Loaded. Sorry about the Super Slime Ball parlay, man. It looked pretty good.
It was, 20 seconds away. I would have had a dead dog loser anyway because I went heavy on Marina Rodriguez, but it would have been nice to give us a winner for the people. But, hey, listen, that's why the UFC and MMA is great. We're rebounding this week. 14 fights, 14 winners. Let's go.
Talk to you next Sunday, my man.
I'll see you, boys.
UFC 281. There he is, Brian Petrie, with us for the main event challenge. All right, before we get on out of here, it is time for the MERROW Seconds. And Cody is clean shaven. He's got the gold VMG t-shirt. You got to send me one of those. That is tight, Veracity Media Group. So I believe you have already given out an NFL prediction for week 9, and the games have yet to be played. So are you going to give it another one, or are you just going to remind us the pick you gave out on last week's show?
I'm just going to remind you about the one last week because obviously we got games coming. And then when you're in town next weekend with your brother, we'll put it up on your story so that the fans can fade the Cody cover for the next week. Because feasibly our show will be Sunday morning. The play is Vikings -3.5.
Okay. Vikings -3.5 at the Washington Commanders.
Correct.
All right.
That's soon to be Jeff Bezos owned Washington Commanders.
All right. So I didn't have my best show today. I had to have left out several things. What did we leave out?
John, your worst is most people's best. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself there.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Bonuses at UFC's Vegas 64 went to Neil Magny for his win over D-Rod, which put him ahead of GSP, of course, with the UFC welterweight wins. Mario Batista for his triangle armbar submission win. Poliana Viana for her brutal KO at Jenu Fry. And then Tamides Vidal for her jumping knee stoppage. Did I get that one right? Was that close?
Yep. Nice job with the bonuses, too. Nice to see Neil Magny get one. And, and Poliana Viana. And,
nice to shine a little shine. And
Mario Bautista is a really good, humble kid, and not a lot of triangle arm bars in the illustrious history of the UFC. So.
No. So we had Frevola on the show, obviously, today. So good luck to Maddie next week. Can't wait for that walkout. But I wanted to draw attention to his Tapology profile pic. I just thought that was worth bringing up.
Amazing.
So if he could walk out to that with the trumpets, I think that would be a very good a good play for him.
And if you're only listening to the show, it's Frevola in like a winter jacket, no shirt, and some fancy hat.
A cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Cowboy hat.
Fancy hat. Of course, it's a cowboy hat. So a little bit of PFL news. PFL recently launched and announced the Fast channel, 24/7 fights. You can watch PFL at any hour. So if you're sitting there, you can't sleep, John. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, you've gone to all your other vices and can't go to sleep. You want some Ken Flow? You turn into the PFL Fast channel 24/7. You can get Ken Flow anytime.
Oh gosh.
You want me to give another promotion my ratings for Ken Flow? I'll do anything. I'll get a Team Florian tattoo if you want.
Where would I get it?
Don't you?
No tattoo bets.
Tattoo already?
I do. Well, you're in town next week, so you're gonna force me. You're gonna drag me to a tattoo shop or what?
Pay-per-view week is a terrible time for me to do anything.
Yeah. Not that anybody realizes that. Oh, John, you'll be in town. We'll go to dinner.
I am going to Barstool Sports for the first time. That should be exciting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
that's cool. You should bring a disinfectant.
I don't get it. I'm bringing my twin brother though.
Yeah. No, it's never mind. Seems like a crappy place. So if I'm homeless next weekend, if I'm doing this show from the street or something like that, it's going to be because I put my rent check on Weili Zhang to win by finish. You guys know, my football handicap is not great, but when I got to read on a fight, I'm pretty locked in. I don't think that Carla lasts more than 2 rounds against Weili. When Weili comes out there and she's ready and she's ferocious, I'm not sure many people can stand against her. Rose can with her elusiveness, but Carla's not elusive. She's not incredibly flight of foot. And she always seems to start slow. She has that dead face, in the introduction. I think Weili's going to put a blitz on her, especially with the camp that she comes from. I think that's going to be the game plan. And in her last 3 UFC finishes, they're all under 2.5 rounds. So I see Weili going out there and putting on a performance and probably putting Carla out within, 7.5 minutes would be my prediction.
Yeah, Carla Esparza is an awesome human being, 2-time UFC strawweight champion. I will admit to being way off on this betting line. I thought Zhang Weili would be north of -500, but
I think she should be.
Carla's,
and if you guys wanted to
prove people wrong, so.
In the YouTube comments, put the over under on what my age looks like without my beard, because I look like a fucking child.
Yeah, might have to grow that back. I mean, you look handsome as usual, but you look 16, 17 years old. So
yeah. Thanks. Me and Raul Rosas are producing the pod.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. Don't forget AnikFlorianPodcast.com for all of your merchandise needs, and you can check out anything relating to the podcast. Big things coming up in 2023. We were not teasing a non-announcement of that, I can assure you. Also, KennyFlorianMartialArts.com continues to be live. And check out Millions.co. You can get merch for Matt, the Steamroller Frevola, and we also, within the last 24 hours, released our One More Sleep designs, exclusive for New York City and UFC at 281. Thank you to our guests, Matt, the Steamroller Frevola, Ray Longo, and Brian Peachy. Our executive producer is Cody Merrow. And thank you all for listening, for watching, subscribing. We appreciate every last one of you. For Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. Until next week, enjoy UFC 281. We will recap it with you next Sunday, November 13th. Yo fucking later.